to today's episode of Conversations with Karen and Kat. I am Karen Scott Green.
And I'm Kat Hardrick.
And we are joined today by Flossie Ross.
Yay!
Flossie is the lead community outreach advocate for PADV, the Partnership Against Domestic Violence. Flossie is a dedicated advocate for ending domestic violence and fostering healthy relationships within communities. Thank you so much for joining us, Flossie.
Yes.
Yeah. First thing I have to ask is, can you tell us a bit about your journey that led you to become a community outreach advocate for domestic violence prevention?
Okay. So honestly, I ended up in this field straight out of college. It was my first professional job working in the domestic violence field. And it really started a passion for me. I was in Georgia for a while. I worked in domestic violence down in Florida for a little bit. And, one thing that I don't often say to people, but working with Partnership Against Domestic Violence was one of my dream jobs.
Oh, really?
So I've been with the agency almost 4 years now. Yeah.
Okay.
But
so
I was going to say I've done some other things, but
okay.
I've always come back to domestic violence.
Okay.
Really?
And so what was your major? Was it social work or human resources? Psychology.
Got here.
Okay.
One of our last guests had a degree in he had sociology. Okay. Yeah.
But it's still in the human services field.
It's
correct.
Still in the human services.
Figuring out how to get resources to people.
Yep.
Yeah.
So just a helping field, just wanting to help.
That's right. So for people who do not know about PADV, can you give them an explanation about your mission and what do you guys do out in the community?
So our agency is actually celebrating its 50th year. We were the first domestic violence agency here in Georgia and in the nation. So our mission is to end the crime of domestic violence. Part of what we do in our community is we have, of course, a 24-hour hotline number. We have so that anytime day or night, if a survivor needs to call, needs emergency shelter, they are able to reach out on that line and get someone that they can talk to. We also have a shelter program. Shelter program where someone, if they are fleeing an abusive partner, can go and stay. We have that program in Fulton County as well as in Gwinnett County. So we have two.
Wow. So Fulton and Gwinnett. So you mentioned the hotline. Can you tell us about the hotline?
So the hotline is staffed by some wonderful, caring advocates. They are there to give resources, to talk to a survivor about our shelter program, to offer safety planning for our survivors. So it's just one of our main ways to get in contact and find out about what we do.
And what is that number?
That's going to be 404-873-1766.
And for those of you who weren't quick enough to get your pen, that's 404-873-1766. And it is also going to be in our show notes. So even though you may not need it today, if you know someone who is dealing with domestic violence, living with domestic violence, please make sure that you take this number down. Keep it in your phone so that you can share it with them. But
Amen.
Flossie, you used the term that I love, and the relanguishing, I think is very important. You said when the survivors call, not the victim. So when someone's calling your hotline, the language is that they are a survivor.
That's right.
Yes.
When did that shift happen?
That is a good question. And, our terminology in this field changes from, over the years.
Yeah.
When I first started in the field, we talked about domestic violence, and then intimate partner violence became really big. And now we're back to domestic violence. But as far as thinking of someone as a survivor, I think the reason that we're in that place and that we use that terminology is because we want the person to have hope that it is possible to be educated about domestic violence, to safety plan with an advocate, to be able to get out of that unhealthy relationship. So I feel like survivor is a terminology that just kind of elicits that idea of there's some hope.
Yes.
I can heal from this. I can get out of this.
That is so important because language, as we know, scripture tells us, has the power to kill and give life. So being able to see yourself as a survivor, and no longer a victim, but victor, you have hope. So thank you for making that. That is very important. That's what we have to really drive home, the power of our words and listening. What in your experience are some of the signs or even barriers that some of our survivors experience when they are seeking help, or they don't even realize they're in a domestic violence relationship?
So correct. That is, one of the things that I love about my position is that I get to go out and educate the community. And so one of the things I see in talking to survivors is that you are completely right. They don't even realize that they are dealing with domestic violence. We kind of have, as a community, we kind of have this idea that domestic violence is only physical abuse.
Yes.
And so if your partner is not physically, touching you, hitting you, if you're not dealing with that, then you may feel as if, this is just how relationships go.
Yeah.
It's just something that I have to figure out by myself or deal with.
So he's possessive, or he's checking my phone and checking where I am because he loves me.
Right. Or she.
Exactly.
Or she.
Exactly.
I'm speaking I'm speaking from, this gender.
Sometimes it's romanticized. Sometimes we blame it on if they have alcohol issues, if they have mental health issues. And sometimes we feel as if we're not doing enough to help them, to fix them. So, I think some of those warning signs, that you look for if someone could be abusive, they're going to be quick to get into that relationship. Love bombing, exactly.
Is that the term?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. They're going to say all the right things. They're going to do all the right things. You're going to feel as if they are paying complete attention to you. And it's part of the process. It's part of the process. I reel you in, and then I start to isolate you from your family and your friends. I start to, kind of make you feel as if I'm the only one that you can talk to, the only one that you can trust. And once you get to that place, it's very easy to control that person.
So when we see loved ones or ourselves in a situation where your partner has to be around when you're talking to your mom or your family member, and they have to be a part of that conversation, or if you wanted to hang out with a friend that you normally would do prior to this relationship, now this person either has to inject themselves or say you don't need to be in that. Are these some of the?
Yeah, or they have to ask permission. Right. So normally you would be able to make plans and they would say, sure, let's go and do that. But then you find a friend that starts to say, let me text this person.
Let me check with him.
Let me check in. You may see just excessively thinking about and talking about that person. but yes, all of those are signs that
Yes.
that person is in an unhealthy relationship.
So, Flossie, we touched on it a little bit, but expound on what are some of the common misconceptions about domestic violence beyond it's not just physical. Are there some other misconceptions?
So other than that it can only happen to a specific demographic. So we always want to make sure that we share with people anyone can be a victim. Anyone can, of course, be a survivor, but anyone can deal with domestic violence. It does not matter your education, does not matter how much money you have or don't have, doesn't matter your ethnicity, like anyone can be, or even your gender, right? So anyone though can be a survivor.
Absolutely.
I think other misconceptions are that there's no help in the community. And so I think a large part of what my agency tries to do, what all of the agencies in Georgia try to do is make sure that we are out there and that survivors and anyone that's in an unhealthy relationship realizes there are some supports, there are some things that you can seek and do.
Can you list out some of those things just to give people an idea what they can expect to receive when they contact?
Before we go there, I wanted to touch on something else, though, Kat.
Okay.
You mentioned unhealthy relationships.
Yes.
Some folks don't even know what does a healthy relationship look like.
Oh, yeah. Love it. That's a perfect.
Right.
So how can someone identify if they are in a healthy relationship or not? And how can they build when they meet their new partner, build to ensure that they are in a healthy relationship? Because some folks don't even know.
Right. You know, I always say communication is so important and healthy. And we always, we all talk about that and think of that when we think of healthy. Being able to have boundaries in a relationship and things that you are and are not okay with. Being able to really have respect in that relationship. Those are all some of the things that you see. Shared power, so a relationship where you are equal and you're both given a chance to make decisions and things that way. So just those are some of the things that we're looking for in healthy.
Shared power.
That hits you too.
One of the things that I always, and this is a little bit of a misconception too, domestic violence is a choice. So abusers are making a choice to do the things they do.
Say that again, repeat that.
Wow.
Domestic violence is a choice. Because when you think about it, when we talk about communication, survivors they're saying, I'm not okay with this. This is hurting. This, let's talk about what happened. Let's talk about what you did. And that abuser makes the decision to gaslight, so I'm going to minimize what you bring to me. I'm going to deny it, or I'm going to tell you that you're the reason for it. So, definitely that's what you're going to see in unhealthy relationships, but it's a choice.
Yes,
if someone chooses to try to do better, they choose to try and adhere to your boundaries, even if they're having a hard time, right?
They do.
That's someone that's working at it, and that's a healthier relationship than unhealthy.
Do you know, and you may not know the statistics in terms of men being survivors. And I hear often, and don't get me wrong, we know for centuries women have been the brunt of abuse, still to this day. However, there is a growing number of males who are survivors. And because, in my opinion, and you can add to this, please, your knowledge and expertise, society says, oh man, you can't let a woman hit you. You a punk, you this, you that, right? That, but the reality of it is they're in a situation where it's domestic violence, whether it may be physical or emotional. Could you speak to that, please?
So definitely what you are sharing right now. So 1 in 4 adult women and 1 in 7 adult men experience severe intimate partner violence over their lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
I think, just as you were saying, I think men think that they may be afraid to say that it's happening in their home or with their partner. They may be afraid that they won't be believed, right? So you speak up and someone goes, "Oh, that doesn't make any sense. That's not happening. Why would you even say that?"
Mm-hmm.
So I think we have to continue to make it safe for male survivors to come and say, "I'm dealing with an unhealthy relationship. I'm being abused by my partner." I love that with our agency, we will support and offer our services to any survivor of domestic violence.
Praise God.
Right, any survivor.
It's not gender specific.
Not gender specific.
That's really good. All right, man. That's good to know. That's good to know, because I don't like to see it for anybody. I'm sure all three of us feel like that. No one should ever
Absolutely
be subjected to that behavior, that treatment. And I'm glad to hear that, because I feel like men don't know that there are resources out there for them. And we have to silence the shame and let people know it's okay to say that you are not being treated well, and there are resources and support for you. Because I don't, like you just said, the statistics, and that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot. And so
what can we as parents, educators, mentors, because Kat and I both mentor, what conversations can we have with young people in our lives about consent, about boundaries? How can we have
That's a wonderful question. So part of my job is I go out in the community and I do tabling events to, again, share the information about our agency, domestic violence and dating violence. When I see families that have toddlers and siblings and young children, I always say it is never too early to talk about what healthy looks like. Because you start with, what does it mean to be a good sibling, right? What does it mean to be a good sister or brother to each other? Then you can start talking to your children about, what does healthy friendships look like? What does unhealthy friendships look like? What do you do when you're dealing with an unhealthy friendship? Then, of course, when the children are of age, you start talking about dating violence. What does it look like in a relationship with someone? So one of the things I always say is it's never too early to start those conversations, because we have to talk about it. Even when I go out and I talk with teens in our high schools or, at different events, I always ask the question, did you learn anything? And I still get excited when they say, well, no, I knew this, this is old information. And I always share with them, that's okay. We have to talk about this over and over again.
It's a continuing conversation.
Continuing conversation. It is not a one and done. Always talking about it, because you can always learn something and grow. You can always look at your relationships and see, how can I show up better? What can I do differently?
A lot of us do not have healthy examples of relationships to model. So you cannot speak about it enough, because these conversations may be the only healthy conversations or outlets some people may have. And prayerfully, that voice comes up when they're faced in a real life situation, and they can hear, like, wait a minute, this is healthy. And they can respond to that. Right. So while we have our listeners, what is, if any, one most important thing you can say to our listeners that they can do to help make a positive impact in ending this cycle of abuse?
I think I stay with, talk about it. Let's not make it a dirty secret, right?
Taboo. What's happening in this house, stay in this.
Exactly.
Ooh, that'll kill you, literally.
It literally. So if you see someone that you think is in an abusive relationship, talk to them, find out, check on them, let them know that if they do want to talk about it, that you will be there and that that there are some resources in the community that may be able to help them. The other thing that I say to people is believe them. So often survivors will share their story and start to kind of share what's going on. And, for one reason or another, because abusers are very charismatic, on the outside, they look like this great partner. And so just having someone believe you can be really, really important for a survivor.
And as you were saying that, I was thinking about the Sean Combs trial. And we saw the video, unless you were living under a rock. We saw the video of him beating Cassie in that hotel. And she gave her testimony. And even with that, we saw how horrible that beating was. And there were still people, women. There were still women who were like,
yes,
but she still went back. She still stayed. She stayed because she wanted to.
Yes.
Isn't that called Stockholm Syndrome?
Yes.
Isn't that
it is.
Right.
So one of the issues with how we look at that is, and again, that's another myth. You were asking about myths earlier, is that they wanted it or that they wanted to stay. There are so many barriers to leaving an abusive relationship. It is not as easy as we may think. It is not as easy as someone typing on social media can imagine to get out of an abusive relationship. There are, and one of the things that we like people to know is that it is the most dangerous time.
I was just about to ask you about that because the work that your organization and other organizations do is you actually create strategies for people to leave.
It's an exit strategy.
An exit strategy. Can you talk about that?
So safety planning, you're right. It is important to talk about what is it going to look like? What are some things that you can do to be as safe as possible when you're trying to leave an abuser? First thing that I share with someone when I'm safety planning is the fewer people that know what you're doing, the best. So
Say that again.
The fewer people that know, the best, right? So this is not something that if you've got young children, you shouldn't even
tell them kids.
Right? But it needs to be strategies and things that you're doing in the background that you are the only one that's aware of, or maybe you and an advocate, and maybe you and just one person, but it can't be that you share it with everyone. And it also can't be that you share it in the midst of an argument and tell your abuser, I'm getting ready to leave.
That's why I'm leaving. You gonna come home and I'm gonna be gone.
I won't be here. So, that's something that sometimes survivors don't even think about and realize. That's why it's always good to have a conversation about safety planning, because it's just the most dangerous time. So you don't even want to say it to your abusive partner.
Right.
Which is why domestic violence is one of the most dangerous calls for our response, our emergency response responders, first responders. That is the most dangerous call for them, because folks are in their feelings, they're upset, they're already enraged. It's a very dangerous call.
Yes, they never know what they're walking into.
And the fact is, some people don't make it.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. Some people don't make it. And that's why this show is so important, because you do have help and support. Please contact that number. What's that number, Karen? Please.
It is 404-873-1766.
Because there are resources, and as Ms. Flossie said, they can help you create a safety plan. And I believe some of the reason people stay because of their children. Men too, they don't leave because they don't want to leave their children, just like women don't want to leave their children. There are a lot of reasons that we may not understand, and it's not for us to understand. But don't let that stop you from calling this number, going to the website, or having somebody else call on your behalf if you can't call. So I'm sure y'all have those types of things too. And your resources are private. Like speak to the privacy and the reach that you do to make sure you protect someone's identity and their location.
Yes. So as an advocate, we have a confidentiality policy. So, things that a survivor shares with us, we have to make sure that we don't share it with anyone else. Of course, we have exclusions. We're mandated reporters of abuse. If someone's a danger or harm to themselves. So we have some exclusions, but in general, we're talking about that policy with the survivor. We're, sharing that information so that they know what to expect from our services. And one other thing I'd like to share, our services are for any survivor, even if they're not ready to leave the abusive relationship.
Okay.
You can still attend a support group. You can still work with our agency and get free one-on-one counseling. You can still, access our services, even if you're, safety planning with the advocate, even if you're not ready to leave at that time.
It's just like with addiction, where sometimes it takes quite a few times before someone actually stops. It's the same thing for some people in domestic violence relationships or situations that it may take them a while before they're able to actually leave. Kat, you mentioned about people not wanting to like leave their kids or take their kids with them to like a shelter. But another thing that I've heard from some people is that they don't want to leave their pets.
Yes.
Because sometimes people who are violent to humans are also violent to pets and animals.
That is definitely a warning sign. We are lucky in our Atlanta metro area. We have a wonderful agency, a Hymns the House, that I know our agency works with to assist their loved ones, and pets are their loved ones. So whether it be a money issue, will my abuser call DCF on me? And, will my abuser say that, if we get a divorce or if we're in a custody battle, will they say that I'm not working? I have no income, and thus they're the best person to have the kids. So survivors they're weighing and making the best decision that they can at that moment, right? And I always try and share with families, it can take 7 to 8 times for them to leave an abuser and go back before they're actually able to make that break.
I'm gonna be transparent. I'm a survivor of that, and I was in an unhealthy relationship, and it took me a minute, and it took a therapist because I was going to counseling. I can fix this person, and I'm in it to the end. We got to get through this, and da 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 da. And the therapist said, "You're gonna have to make a decision because this person ain't ready." And that hit me hard like a boulder, like, wow. And so I had to create an exit strategy to, what I needed to do to make sure that me and my family was safe and to move forward, And it was the hardest thing because, I wanted to be with that person for the rest of my life.
You love them. You love them. Yeah.
Absolutely. And
virtual hug, sis.
Yes.
Yeah, man. So, this podcast is truly a ministry. We ain't doing this for the, so it's a lot of people, and we come in all shapes and sizes, all economic statuses, all geographical demographics, whatever.
Domestic violence does not have a face.
It
as far as like what it looks like. It looks like everybody.
Right. And you can have somebody making 6, 7 figures.
Yes. Does not matter.
They clean, and you like, what?
Right.
As we saw the video,
I mean,
Exactly.
and Sean Combs is not the only person of means
No.
who has abused someone. He is not.
No.
Right.
He just happened to have been caught on video.
Right. So when someone refrains you from leaving a room, someone tries to silence your voice, someone tries to isolate you and alienate you,
these are all abusive
signs that this person is abusive. Even if they never lay a hand on you, abuse is physical, emotional, and psychological.
Yes.
It does not have to be physical.
Right.
And there's help for you. So,
Flossie, what inspires you in this work? Because it can be heavy.
Yes.
What inspires you in this work?
I will tell you, when I was in Florida, I met an advocate.
What part of Florida? I'm interrupting.
I was in Central Florida, so I was near Daytona Beach, down in that area. But I saw that, yes, you were from Florida too.
That's me.
Oh, I'm sorry. But I had an advocate that shared with me, when you're interacting with a survivor, it is about planting a seed. Your job is not to make them leave. Your job is not to fix the situation, but it's about planting that seed of information that it's possible. Safety planning, an agency is there with resources and that may be able to help you. So that is something that I hold on to on those days. I hold on to that. I'm just here to plant a seed. I want you to know that there's help out there.
Amen.
And when you're ready, we're here.
We are here. When you are ready on the other side. I know that.
How can people get involved with PADV? Or how can they support its mission?
Yes, that's a wonderful question. So to get involved with us, I would encourage people to reach out on our website, so padv.org. There are ways that you can volunteer. There are ways that you can donate. Of course, our shelter programs are always in need of food and school supplies and Christmas gifts. Christmas is coming. But always in need of support from our community. And, it could be making a clothing donation. So our website has tons of information about our agency. And one thing that I love about our website, you can change the language. So if you need to see it in a different language, you can.
I know that, right? That's good.
And so you've got some important dates coming up there at PADV.
We sure do. So some of our events that are coming up soon that anyone can join us is our Legacy of Hope is going to be on September the 20th, 2025. And then our Candlelight Vigil, where we honor the lives lost due to domestic violence. That will be on October the 8th, which we have that vigil every year during October because October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Yes. Okay.
And so those dates again for the Legacy of Hope is September 20th, 2025. And the Candlelight Vigil is going to be on October 8th, 2025.
And they can find out more information about how they can plug into those events at the website, padv.org.
Yes.
That's perfect. So one of our questions we never let our guests leave off the stage without answering. You do carry a load and you are out here planting those seeds with 2 other people. But what do you do to protect your mental wellness while you're out here doing this work?
Because the load is heavy.
It's heavy. I really rely on my family. So spending time with them is important to me. And I really try to just get sunlight, do breath work, exercise. I can get there and do some exercise. But there's some things I try to do and just think as positively as possible. And I'll tell you one other thing. I don't tend to watch a lot of or partake in a lot of negative
News media.
communication, TV shows,
Yeah.
things like that. I don't watch dramas because I hear enough during the day.
I know,
So
right? I know
You
that's
see the
right.
drama. I understand that. I understand that
Yeah.
because it can be heavy,
Mhm.
and I do some work that can be heavy too,
mhm, mhm.
and sometimes it weighs it wears on me,
Yes.
um, and with that, I have to have touchstones. Talk to my girlfriends.
Yes.
Spend some time in solitude. Spend some time reading my Bible because you have to pour back into yourself.
Yes.
Because sometimes when you are giving of yourself in
Mhm.
these kind of roles, if you don't recharge, if you don't take a mental break, you'll break.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So this work is important, but also taking the time to disconnect
Mm-hmm.
and refuel is important as well. So that
Amen.
because you can't pour from your empty cup.
Yep. No,
Your
you
cup
sure.
has to be overflowing, and you serve from your
Yeah.
saucer.
You
Yeah.
serve from your sauce. You better dab
Yeah.
some bread and get that
Sop it up.
sauce bread. Sock it
Yes.
up
Yes.
and
Yes.
get in my cup. I love
No,
it.
but yes, this work is so important. And just again, we want to make sure that our listeners have this information. You can reach out to the Partnership Against Domestic Violence at padv.org, or you can reach them on their hotline. You can share this information with anyone that you know that may be dealing with a domestic violence situation at 404-873-1766. And if you are watching this and you are outside of the metro Atlanta area, there are other organizations in your local community, in your state, that are doing the work
Mhm.
Yes.
against domestic violence. So please reach out wherever you are. Find your local hotline. This little thing right here,
Yep.
your phone,
Hmm.
is your lifeline.
Mhm.
That can be
You.
your lifeline for helping you develop a strategy for
Mhm.
how you can exit safely,
Yep.
Yeah.
which Miss Flossie has talked about.
Yep. And you can always dial 988 wherever you are in this nation, in this country, and then they can point you in the right direction.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Kat. That was and then Flossie, any last words, any information that you want to share that we didn't get a chance to touch on, or just something you want to leave listeners with?
I don't know that I necessarily shared the things that the agency does. I
Okay.
know we started with the hotline, we have our shelter program, we have legal advocates that can help someone get a restraining order.
Okay.
We have our counseling and our support groups, which I love our support groups because it is an opportunity for people to learn more about domestic violence as well as have someone to talk to, right? So I think just, thanking you guys so much for having this conversation, inviting me to come and chat with you tonight. But
Yeah.
again, just knowing that our agency is out there, their resources, please reach out.
Amen.
Thank you for this work.
Yes.
I worked briefly in the Gwinnett DA's office for a little while, and I know that our Victims Advocate Office works with the Partnership Against Domestic Violence, and what a wonderful resource that is, that relationship between the Victims Advocate Office and PADV.
Yes, yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, yes, it is.
That is
Yes.
great work. Anything else you want to say, Miss Cat?
No, girl, everybody needs to get down. PADV, get on that website, find out how you can support, volunteer, and donate, and check out their website, padv.org. And make sure y'all tune in and subscribe to Conversations with Karen and Kat. If you have not, please do so you can not only
Yes.
this episode, but other great episodes where we are giving solutions to the problems that affect all of our communities.
Absolutely. And as always, we want to thank you for joining us on this episode of Conversations with Karen and Kat.
Where we are impacting the world one conversation at a time.